But you know, the toughest thing is to love somebody who has done something mean to you, especially when that somebody has been yourself. Have you ever done anything mean to yourself?
What you want in an interview is a passion, a sense of humor, ability to explain what you do very well, and a little bit of a chip on your shoulder.
I haven't changed. Technology has changed.
I regret not having more children. I would have loved to have had a bigger family. I have one daughter. I don't have brothers and sisters. I had a sister that I loved, and she was developmentally challenged, I guess is how they...
You know, the carrying on the family tradition, Nancy Sinatra has unbelievably, because it happened just once, not very many times in a career, Nancy Sinatra has come up with the #1 record in the country.
I needed a girl on the show, so I said to the woman who produced it, please find 12 pictures, 8x10 glossies, put them on my desk and I'll walk in and point to who I think. And she did that, and I walked in and just went, her, get me some tape on her talking.
You know, every day over 4 million New York people go into a dirty, dismal, sometimes even scary subway. Yeah, it's scary down there. How can this be in this city? Aren't we the city that shows others what could be done when it has to be done?
No, not on this show you can't. You know, I have watched you on the Midnight Special since I was a little boy. Come on now, wait a minute, what is up? Is that fun?
Huh?
Where are you a natural born ham or what?
No, it's just always silly, Dick, you know that.
My next guest is truly what? What did I say? And you corrected me in front of millions of people, didn't you? De Cordova dump. Christmas bonus.
Now, folks, I want to thank you very, very much for inviting me into your homes for the last 50 years. I am deeply grateful. And please remember, help control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.
Very good question, because I did get a vibe. You can tell, you know, people who take the union seriously, you can differentiate them immediately. They want this marriage to last.
I ever saw people of any color was when D-Day left from my hometown in England. And there was every color you could imagine, and I'd not seen that in England. And I asked my mother about it. I said, is there something wrong? She said, God. God makes people. You understand that, don't you? And I said, yeah. She said,
great job. Somebody comes to you and says, hey, Jerry, I got this job. You're on television an hour a day. You know, it'll be the #1 show in America. You'll meet the most interesting, fascinating, crazy people you've ever met in your life. The stories are just wild. You know, plus, we'll pay you handsomely. Would you honestly say?
It kills me because I now am a widow, and that means I'm a widow now 3 years, and I'm starting to date. You don't know what it's like, especially men, because it's a man's world. Every man, let me tell you, in this room, I don't care how old you are, as long as you live, you're a catch. Do you understand how lucky you are? We have an extra man. Bring him along. He's 98. Bring him, bring him.
Hi, everyone. I have some news to share with all of you, and it's in keeping with my longtime policy of being open and transparent with our Jeopardy fan base. I also wanted to prevent you from reading or hearing some overblown or inaccurate reports regarding my health.
Okay, all right. Does the audience, oh, we're going to leave that in, though, right? Let's leave, okay. Now, how many of you went to Sunday school and know the answer? What is the answer?
Dead Sea.
The Red Sea, that's the one that divided. Okay.
King Kong was hungry.
How hungry was he?
I'll tell you, he took 2 huge slices of bread, he went to the naval base, and he made himself a blank sandwich. King Kong was hungry, took 2 huge slices of bread, went to the naval base, and he made himself a blank sandwich.
I don't know how many people realize this, but Slappy and I go back a long way together. Almost 40 years? We played the Chitlin Circuit. The Chitlin Circuit, the Apollo. Well, he's more than just a friend. He's like a twin brother to me. Ladies and gentlemen, Slappy White.
My father was a salesman and a very likable guy. I really loved my dad, and most people who met my father really liked him. And if I brought anything, if my father left anything for me, it was that kind of likable, genuine personality that I think he had.
We had been at a White House dinner, and my wife sat next to a cabinet-level person who said to her, "You might have your husband ask Adlai Stevenson to be a guest on his program. It would be interesting." And my wife said, "Why?" And he said, "I'm not at liberty to tell you why, but if he asks, I guarantee you he'll find."
Not many people in this world are as lucky as I've been. When I was in high school, I had an English teacher who told me I was a good writer, so I set out to become a writer myself. I've made my living as a writer for 70 years now. Been pretty good.
In those days, and I imagine it's true today, it depended on your ratings. If you had a big enough audience, then you could get a big enough prize. You assessed how much a prize was worth. For example, let's say that a 8 or 10 second plug on a show.
All of us are born with a streak of curiosity. We're just a little bit nosy. We want to know what goes on next door. And I think over the years we've always thought that rich people live this larger than life that we would love to do, maybe for an hour, maybe for a day.
My dad left school in the 10th grade, went to fight in World War II. His B-24 Liberator went down. Terribly hurt, 6 months in a military hospital, and then he came back and started a second mission with my mom to raise and educate their 4 kids. He worked 2 full-time jobs as a truck driver and a sanitation man. And I told that story.
Good evening. A White House spokesman tonight said Syria rejected Beirut airport as the site for the first meeting on Lebanese reconciliation. It feels the airport is unsafe. General Motors agreed to settle a sex and race discrimination suit for $42.5 million. That is a record amount. And now this.
Nobody else has aroused so much passion during the decade of the 60s. I have known him almost from the beginning. He came to New York first as a brash, arrogant, obnoxious youngster. Nothing about him has changed.
I did not know we were on the air, and I've been around long enough to know to be careful about that. I didn't know the microphone was still open, so I offered some opinions about Clinton that were less than flattering. They weren't vulgar, but they were not flattering.
In Tokyo, Yoko Ono's younger brother said he wanted his sister to return to Japan, where she doesn't have to worry, he said, about gunshots anymore. The gun murder rate in the United States is more than 200 times greater than in Japan, where it's almost impossible for a private citizen to get a handgun.
I would like to say this. Confidence by itself without effort does not win contests. Victory in this conflict depends on much, much more than confidence. It is a contest unlike any we have ever faced in our history as a nation. A snake of a whisper is abroad that Americans have lost touch with their past.
What? I had my hearing aids fixed today so that I can properly hear you. Good. I can't see as well. I used to be able to play tennis. I now have, this has stopped me from smoking, a pacemaker. I have for about the last 15 years.
Before we begin tonight's broadcast, we have the sad duty to report the death of our friend and colleague, Mike Wallace. Mike died last night at age 93. For more than 6 decades, 4 of them on this broadcast, he was a kind of one-man truth squad.
When they looked at Bosnia, our leaders saw only the risks of action. They ignored the risks of doing nothing. And while America watched, hundreds of thousands of people died, murdered in a particularly evil kind of war. The Bosnians paid a very high price, but so did those.
Hello there. You know, every time I do this program, I feel sorrier for the other people in television who have to have writers, they have to rehearse, they have to memorize the lines, they have to edit and watch their timing, and they always have to worry about new material. I have no such worry. Every morning, I wake up, open the newspaper.
Front, of course, when I walked out, all my friends were there, and they're screaming and yelling and carrying on, and it scared the hell out of him. And he ran out of the theater. After the show, I'm looking for him, and I can't find him. He'd already gotten on a streetcar, and he'd gone home, see.
It occurred to me when the idea first occurred to me back in Chicago while I was still working in radio that it had that kind of potential, but no one could have told me that it would have happened in such a relatively short time, you know.
How many of you know the show Scooby-Doo? Yeah. There's a character that I play on that show, the sidekick of Scooby-Doo for the past 17 or 18 years, and his name is Shaggy. And Shaggy would like to say a few words to the young people out there, all right?
I'm very, very honored for this award, the Impact Voices of Courage and Conscience Media Award. There was, however, very little courage, and one would hope an ordinary amount of conscience at work at producing our Israel-Palestine episode of Parts Unknown.
For the Cubs, 3-6-0 for the Mets. Speaking for Steve Stone and Tom Brenneman, I'm sure we thanked everybody that we possibly have the time to thank. This is Harry Carey from Wrigley Field. Until next spring, God willing.
We want to welcome a new sponsor. Now, that doesn't mean much to you. But you see a show like this, it's considered controversial. It's hard to get a sponsor sometimes, and I deny that we're controversial. Everybody's on the show. And anyhow, we're happy that we have this new sponsor, and we're proud to announce tonight that we have a new sponsor